Welcome back to the program. The first thing I want to start with tonight is honesty, ethics, truthfulness, all things that I built my career on. Now, I have seen lots of these videos going around on social media. Some of them are saying that there was somebody to his right that had some type of cell phone gun that was trying to shoot him, and that they shot him from that direction when clearly his body kicks backwards, which we'll explain in a second. I have seen the hand signals, which actually I do agree with. I think there were hand signals. I said that from day one. Okay? But one of the things that I have built my career on is being accurate and not doing anything at all, having to do with conspiracy theories and or things that I can't prove. Now, if all of a sudden I get proof of it, well, then perhaps maybe I would change my tune. But at this point, I'm going by what I know, what I can verify, and what I have seen with my own eyes and have heard with my own ears. Clearly, this sick, demented individual did not work alone. That is number one. That is fact. That is not opinion. That is not hearsay. That is 100% fact. Okay? Number two, we know for a fact that this was premeditated, meaning that there was planning and strategizing and organizing about this at least a week in advance, if not even longer. Not coming from me, but from his own admission. What that does, essentially, is it kills any type of, oh, I'm insane defense, and I didn't know what I was doing. Really? Well, you admitted premeditatively that you did this. Number three, there is, and I've said this before, I've said it on Jeff's show, I've said it I believe on the Australian show the other day. I've said it on the show here. There is an underground trans-terrorist organizations that not only are targeting conservatives, but more importantly, are training, paramilitary training, firearm training, tactical training. They are working with Antifa. And of course, they also are in bed with, at this point, I cannot verify whether or not there was funding directly from this organization, but I am talking about DSA. If you don't know what that is, it stands for the Democratic Socialists of America. This is a radical, extreme, pro-trans violent group that has been around since 1982, and it started with very few members, and now I believe there's as many as 44,000 members here just in the United States. They have chapters all around the country, sadly. They endorse candidates. Mamdani been endorsed. Let's hope he doesn't win, but he might. AOC endorsed. She's a member of Congress. Ro Khanna endorsed, member of Congress. Jamal Bowman, who pulled the fire alarm, was a member of Congress, no longer, thankfully. Rashida Tlaib endorsed by DSA, still a member of Congress. Ilhan Noor Saeed Elmi endorsed by DSA, sadly, still a member of Congress. And there are others as well. But to give you an idea of the radical extremists that they put their money and their funding behind, well, clearly, just from those names alone, you can tell from that. Now, he has been charged, this Tyler Robinson character, with count 1, aggravated murder, capital offense, again, death penalty, firing squad, hanging, electric chair. I'm not sure if he gets his choice, but I would certainly like to see him lined up against a wall for a firing squad. Count number 2, felony reckless discharge of a firearm causing bodily injury. Count 3, felony obstruction of justice for hiding the firearm. Count 4, felony obstruction of justice for discarding the clothing that he wore during the shooting, also known as concealment. Count 5, witness tampering for asking his roommate to delete incriminating messages and to pick up and or hide the firearm. Count 6, witness tampering for and demanding trans roommate stay silent and not speak to the police or authorities. Count 7, commission of a violent offense in the presence of a child. Of course, there were children under the age of 18 at the event that sadly had to see and probably have it etched in their minds that horrific shooting. Now, let's go back a little bit. Why am I so against these theories that somebody shot him from the side or somebody shot him in the crowd and was not shot by the actual shooter? Well, a couple reasons. Number one, the shooter's own admission. We'll get to that in a minute. But number two, because of physiology. If he was shot from behind, his body would have violently thrusted forward. That didn't happen. If he was shot from the side, his body would have violently went one direction. Now, he did go towards his left because he was shot on the left side of his neck. But remember, when he was shot, he went to the left a little and then he went straight backwards. Why? Because of the size of the round, number one, and number two, the power of the shot. It knocked him straight back, which means that he was shot from the front. Now, like I said, if anyone has visual evidence that I can see, well, perhaps maybe then I would change my mind. But I don't do conspiracy theories. There's a reason why I have been able to hold on to my audience all of these years with the amount of censorship and banning and shadow banning and attacks and everything else that I have faced. It's because I tell the truth. It's because I talk straight, and because I don't do retractions. You know why? Because I don't get things wrong. And in the very rare case that I do, I'll say, hey, on that last video, I said this. Guess what? It wasn't 100% right. I forgot this detail, or it's actually a little bit closer to this detail or that detail. Not too many other people will ever even dream of doing that because they don't have character and they don't have dignity and they don't have ethics, which I do. Now, let's talk about the note that he wrote to his furry fuck buddy. Let's call him what he is, right? And the print is kind of small, so I'm going to use my glasses. So, here's what it says. I am still okay, my love, but I am stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. I shouldn't be that long until I come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep that secret till the day I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you. The roommate then says, you weren't the one who did it, right? Robinson then admits in this email or text message exchange, I am, and I am sorry. Now, again, that is admission of guilt. I just broke my glasses. That'll be fun. Whatever. I'll get another pair later. So that is admission of guilt, which is a capital offense of murder. Now, I may squint a little, but I think I can get through this. Then it says, the roommate says, I thought they caught the person. And he says, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude. Now, let me stop right there. This crazy old dude, by the way, has now been charged with child porn, number one. Number two, he is a known political agitator in the state of Utah that has arrests going back to the 1980s, okay? He is basically known by authorities as a liar, as a creep, and quite frankly, a lot of times he takes, I guess, credit for things that he doesn't do. He's a known liar. So they grabbed him first because he said, I did it, I'm the one, which of course he didn't. And then he said, I have the right to remain silent. So I was saying, well, why would they arrest this guy and release him after he said that? Well, now we find out that he's a former drug addict. He is kind of a weird loner type. And apparently he's into child porn because he was just arrested for that. Okay? Let's move on. So they interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that other side of town got completely locked down. It's quiet, almost enough for me to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. And then the roommate says, why? And Robinson says, why did I do it? In other words, admitting that he did it. And the roommate says, yes. And Robinson said, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. So that's why this is an aggravated capital offense, which then, of course, brings on the death penalty. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again, hopefully they have moved on. Really? You just killed the #1 conservative commentator and influencer and founder of a huge youth organization under the age of 35, and you think we're just going to be like, oh, golly shucks, we'll get him next time? Is this kid insane? Unbelievable. I haven't seen anything about them finding it yet. So again, that's what makes this a hate crime because of his political beliefs, and of course brings that charge up to aggravated capital murder. Roommate, how long have you been planning this? Robinson, a bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to him, but there is a squad car. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they've swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. And then that is, again, premeditated murder. No insanity defense anymore, because he literally says, a bit over a week, I believe. Now, if they were trying for an insanity defense, they would basically say that he just decided to just do it that day, and he was crazy and whatever, and he has a history of doing crazy things. No, not going to work, not going to fly, okay? Especially not in Utah, by the way. All right, then it says, Robinson says, I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon, talking about his gun, as soon as I got to my car. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace it to me. Then he says this, I worry about fingerprints that I had to leave on the gun as I left it in the bush where I changed my clothes. I didn't have the ability or the time to bring the gun with me. I might have to abandon it, and hopefully they don't find it and my fingerprints. Then it says, how the F will I explain losing this to my old man? So he's not worried about the fact that he just shot and killed Charlie Kirk. He's more worried about what his old man, dad's going to say. Unbelievable. So that's obstruction of justice right there. And it's also concealment, which coincides with the extra charges that he's facing. Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. That is confirmation of what they found right there. Then, this is the sick part. I mean, it's all sick, but this one's really sick. Judging from today, this is what Robinson says. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun did just fine. I think that was a, quote, $2,000 scope. A $2,000 scope. So he's got his... So grandpa leaves the gun that's been in the family for years to the father. The father has the gun for many, many years, gifts it to his son. And I guess either the son went out and got a $2,000 scope, or the father bought a $2,000 scope. They took an old 30-06 Mauser hunting rifle and they supercharged it with a $2,000 top-of-the-line scope. Charlie, sadly, never had a chance. A $2,000 scope would put his face right here, okay? I mean, it would be so big and so easy to hit with a scope that powerful. So sick. Then it says, Robinson says, delete this exchange. This is, again, the other charge, right? Obstruction, concealment. Delete this exchange. My dad wants photos of the rifle. He says that Grandpa wants to know who has it. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it is very unique. He's calling me right now, RN, right now. I'm not answering. So I guess his dad was calling him, and so he didn't answer the phone. Robinson, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. So again, came from a conservative family. Robinson, I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff's department. Robinson, you are all I worry about, my love. I'm much more worried about you, the roommate said. And then Robinson then says, and again, this is obstruction right here. Don't talk to the media, please. Don't talk to anyone. Don't take any interviews. Don't make any public comments. If any police ask you any questions, ask for a lawyer, and please stay silent. That is impeding an investigation, a criminal investigation, intimidation, and yes, even coercion. So that right there is in a nutshell, is why when we see these videos from these people online, I'm sorry, I got to go with, what they have. And what they have is proof of an admission of guilt and basically a completely signed, confession, if you will. Okay? Now, some are going to be naysayers and be like, well, how do you know it's true? How do you know he really wrote it? He used big words. A lot of these kids these days don't use complete sentences. Okay, fair enough. He used RN, which means, I guess, right now. He used, IDK, I don't know, right? He used some of those things. Yeah, he was a smart kid. This was a kid that excelled academically. This was a kid that scored very high on his ACTs, or whatever they're called. Not SATs, the other one, ACT scores. Got into college, was a good student. This is someone that was bright and also dangerous and radicalized and an ideological leftist. And how did he get that way? Well, I think we know how he got that way. The media, the Democratic Party, the people on social media, on TikTok, on all these different things, these violent video games. Look, you may say, oh, you're an old timer, you're fit. These violent video games desensitize people to violence, okay? Whether you want to admit that or not. Now, that doesn't mean that every single person that plays one of these violent video games is going to go out and shoot somebody and kill them. No, of course not. When in my youth, yeah, I used to play PlayStation and things like that. I used to play, some of those more violent games. I'll admit it. But I didn't go out and shoot people and kill people. I knew it was a video game. A lot of these kids are locked in their own virtual reality sickness. They talk to each other. It's an echo chamber of psychoticness, demonization of people that don't agree with them. And more importantly, they don't exercise their brains. They don't write anymore. They don't talk in full sentences anymore. They don't go out to play anymore. They're stuck in their virtual reality hellholes and online, and they're being constantly fed that these people, myself included, many of you, Charlie, Bannon, President Trump, Steve Miller, all of us, we are Nazis, right? Even though I'm Jewish. We are Nazis. We are fascists. We are, well, no, we're not communists. They are. We are these horrible things. We are dangers to society. And it keeps going and going and going. And eventually, guess what? These people are believing these lies. So the media has blood on their hands. The Democrat politicians have blood on their hands. So many people have blood on their hands. But remember, there is an online group, a sick online group that is continuing this sickness. And we're going to get into that right now. So this is just some, and again, just some. I'm not even going to get into the main group yet. But just some of the things, and maybe some of this is repetitive, but some of these people that were online knew about this. So basically, if they allowed this to happen and knew about it, then they're an accessory. And these people that posted these things, that knew about what was going to happen, they need to be charged with accessory to murder. Okay? Because this is not free speech. This is incitement to violence. And this is knowing that someone was going to be killed and not doing something about it. That is also a crime. Okay? FBI is investigating social media accounts that appear to indicate foreknowledge of the Kirk assassination. The FBI is investigating social media posts by at least 7 different accounts that appear to indicate foreknowledge of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, according to 3 people familiar with the investigations and screenshots obtained by the Washington Free Beacon. The posts, one of which referenced the date of Kirk's assassination, September 10th, more than a month before that it actually took place, were all deleted in the days following the killing. Several of these accounts appear to belong to transgender individuals, and at least one of them followed suspect Tyler Robinson's roommate, Lance Twiggs, with whom Robinson was in a relationship. The FBI has received archived copies of these posts, maybe by me, because I was obviously finding these posts and sending them to the FBI, as many others were as well, so thank anyone that was doing that. According to the person who flagged them, screenshots of the posts have been circulating online, but have not been previously authenticated until now. While these posts do not establish that any of these individuals, well, that's bullshit, of course they do, knew about it. Okay, maybe they didn't conspire, but they knew about it. 22-year-old Goldman, okay, yeah, right, we know that. Okay, it'll be funny if someone like Charlie Kirk gets shot on September 10th, LMAO, one account posted on September 3rd, so again, a week before, and if he said in his confession to his, furry fuck buddy or whatever, that at least a week, well, then he was talking to these people and telling them what he was going to do. And all these people just were like, yeah, do it, do it, do it. Not one of them had the decency to protect Charlie and go to the police and go to the authorities and say, this guy is planning on killing Charlie. You may want to tell the Turning Point people to watch out or cancel the event and investigate this. And by the way, where the hell were the Cyber Crimes Security Task Force for the FBI and the online people that are supposed to be watching all of these dangerous individuals? Don't you think if they were watching these individuals, they would have found these things? Why is it that the general public, people like me and you and people on X and whatever, why is it that we can find this stuff, but you want to tell me that the cybersecurity division of the FBI can't find this stuff? What are you all doing? Jerking off to porn? I don't understand it. Next one. Donald Trump, December 14th. So in other words, basically a premonition from this person called at Tally Hall Album. At Tally Hall Album. I don't know if their accounts are still up. Maybe they are. But it says Donald Trump, December 14th. So yes, I saw that. I sent it to the Trump administration, the FBI, to everybody. I did my due diligence, okay? Then it says it would be funny if someone, offed him. Again, September 3rd, 2025. Another account posted on August 6th, more than a month before the shooting. September 10th will be a very interesting day. And, of course, that account followed up with, I plead the 5th. So now we have a date at August 6th. So when he was talking to his furry buddy, he basically said a week, maybe more. Yeah, it was a lot more than that. And I said in the very beginning when this happened, this was well organized, strategized. He's not working alone. Other people knew about it. Others funded it, which hopefully we'll find out who those people are. I have heard that it's the Democratic Socialists of America. I would not put it past them. I would not come here and say, oh, no way, that's not true. I would say it's likely true, but I can't prove it yet because I don't have resources to actually back up that claim. It's out there. It's online, but I'm not going to go there because I can't prove it yet, and I don't do conspiracy theory. If I can prove it, trust me, the next show, I'm going to break it all down like I always do, okay? But I have heard, and again, rumors, I have heard that there was $20,000 sent from the DSA to a bank account that Robinson owned. Now, again, like I said, I'm not going there right now because I can't verify it. Another account says, let's see, right here, the morbid quip was reposted by an account named Churbum75M, saw Tyler June 30th, who appears to follow Robinson's roommate Lance Twiggs on TikTok, and it says, I plead the 5th. This is another account by an account at ALTULIGE, at Altulige, I guess, August 6th. So again, August 6th, well over a month before. September 10th will be a very interesting day. Oh my goodness. And then that same account that posted on August 6th that September 10th is going to be a big day, and it said just watch the news and you'll know or whatever, he then puts, or her or it or they or whatever the hell it is, we did it. That's what he put. We did it. Okay? Charlie Kirk is dead at 31. We did it. Several of the accounts under investigation appear to be associated with, of course, the trans testicle movement and subcultures. One individual, Osamu bin Taziku, OSAMUBINTEZUKA, used the X handle at FUJoshIncel. So at FUJoshIncel, a reference to a genre of anime that depicts romantic relationships between men and men. So I know what an incel is, basically someone that can't get laid. And I am not familiar with anime. All I know is I think it's cartoons from Japan or something. And then that person put on X, well, that's that. Then it says, you guys, I have something big coming soon. Just be sure to check the news. You'll know when you see it. And that was on 9/10 of 2025, so the day he was killed at 4:52 p.m. So that's interesting because now it's showing that it was after. And then 3 hours after that, he put another chud bites the dust. Another user, and this one is the one that everyone's familiar with, at Nardra Galves, Najragalvz, who had wished death to Kirk and predicted that something big was going to happen when he set foot on campus, has been identified as non-binary on X. So their profile has they, them. Charlie Kirk is coming to my college tomorrow. I really hope someone evaporates him, literally. Let's just say something big will happen tomorrow. And in a video posted on TikTok the night before the shooting, an individual who appears to be trans wrote that, quote, Charles James Kirk does not know what's coming tomorrow. Be ready. This isn't a threat. It's a promise. And that person's disgusting name is at definitely not Jackson. But the O-N is not an O-N. It's either a 0-N or a capital O-N. I'm really not sure, nor do I even care. But this sick individual is another one that wrote that. This isn't a threat, the individual added. It's a promise. The investigation of the post comes as the FBI is already examining whether these groups knew about Robinson's plan in advance. Well, clearly you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure that one out, Free Beacon. Obviously. Now, that brings me to this one here. So, there's a lot of people online that knew about this. We already know that. But there's also a trans group out there that everybody needs to know about and be aware of. And they are called Armed Queers of Salt Lake City, which is really odd because not only is it a red state, it's a pretty predominantly red state. But yet, in the Salt Lake City area, it's blue. And that's what happens in every one of these states. They infest the cities. Why? Well, because that's where all the action is. That's where all the jobs are. They come in, they infest, and I'll use that word. They infest the urban epicenters in the cities, and the rest of the state has to suffer from the shit that piles in to the big blue cities. And it doesn't matter whether it's a red state or a blue state, which is why in my book, Preserving Liberty, I talk about a way to get the blue power structure decimated by removing it completely, and I have a formula and all that. But that's a story for another day. Marxist LGBTQ paramilitary group in Utah under federal FBI investigation regarding Kirk's assassination as group leaders and their ties to State Department and United Nations have been revealed. A group under investigation by the FBI for having potential foreknowledge of Charlie Kirk's assassination has a leader with some damning ties to both the federal government and the United Nations. Let's see. The investigation into the assassination has expanded to scrutinize these pro-trans online communities to figure out if they helped him with the planning, possibly even the funding of this. One of the groups is the Marxist paramilitary organization called Armed Queers of Salt Lake City, which took down its Instagram page immediately after Kirk was killed. In a video that has since been scrubbed and removed from the internet, the leaders of the Armed Queers of Salt Lake City brag about a trip to communist Cuba, that's right, in May of 2025, where they trained with militant Marxists to stage a, quote, revolution in America, where and then they returned home. The leaders they met with boasted about being labeled terrorists by the United States. There it is. You have these trans wackos going to Cuba, a communist country, and training with the Cuban government. Unbelievable. But it's not shocking, is it? The group has openly coordinated with the Cuban government in various venues and events. Let's see. Now, Data Republican, another excellent person that does undercover work, uncovered some interesting ties between the Armed Queers of Salt Lake City's primary leader, Ermaya Fanayan, and various government entities. Data Republican exposed that Fanayan is an Iranian immigrant and self-identified communist who has been honored by the State Department, the U.S. State Department, the United Nations, and her ties to State Department-affiliated NGO Utah Global Diplomacy. Wow. That is crazy. Utah Global Diplomacy recognized Fanayan as a recipient of the 7 for 17 award for advancing the United Nations 17 goals. Per the 990 form with Utah Global Diplomacy, partners with the U.S. State Department to cultivate emerging leaders and diplomacy initiatives. This means that she was selected to help shape U.S. foreign policy and relations. Holy cow. Almost all of the money that the Utah Global Diplomacy receives comes from the federal government, meaning that we have been funding her activities. We have been funding the U.S. State Department, okay? And I hope Marco understands this, and I hope everybody else in the administration understands this. Your State Department, probably not you right now, but in the past, that State Department was funding trans militant terrorists, okay, to be armed and then train in communist Cuba, okay? Let that sink in for a half a second. Trans terrorists that were rewarded by the U.S. State Department were then going to Cuba to train paramilitarily armed queers for Salt Lake City, and then they have an online family of sickos, I guess is the best word I can use, that knew all about what they were doing, and of course, never said a word, because they want us dead, okay? This is war. They want us dead. Now, fearing political blowback, Utah Global Diplomacy scrubbed all mentions of Fanayan on their website. Fanayan was also a speaker at the United Nations event focused on LGBTQ nonprofits. All the information is right here. Fanayan was honored as a young diplomat of Utah. Imagine that. This is so disturbing and so sick. Now, as I mentioned earlier, and the last thing that I want to talk about is this. There is a rumor, and again, I can't verify it yet. I'm still working on it, that the Democratic Socialists of America, which is a communist terrorist organization, let's call them what they are, has been working with the trans community and possibly funding them. Okay? They have been possibly funding them and possibly sent money, allegedly, again, I can't verify it yet, to this shooter. Okay? I want that to sink in for a second. Now, I think it is time for the Trump administration to label the Democratic Socialists of America as a terrorist organization, no different than Antifa, no different than BLM, and quite frankly, we need to ban, and I'll use that word, ban the Congressional Progressive Caucus. We need to ban the Progressive Caucus in Congress because they are all endorsed by what I believe should be designated as a terrorist organization, which is the DSA. Okay? That's what needs to happen. Please, I hope and pray the FBI knows what they're doing and they're not a bunch of Keystone cops and that they're going to go through and they're going to investigate these groups. And Stephen Miller said it point blank. In Charlie's honor, we will make sure that we dismantle and destroy these NGOs, these financiers, these George Soros, Alexander Soros, provocateurs that spend money on disrupting America, destroying cities, funding left-wing Marxist communists for office. All of this needs to end. All of it needs to end. Because if it doesn't end, well, I'm not going to get into what's going to happen after that. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.